And we are live. All right, welcome everybody. We are doing yet another Q&A for the Just Got Played channel. And today we have Neutral joining us. And we might have some other people drop in. I don't know. But I'm Steven. That's Erock. That's John. We're from Just Got Played. And yeah, like I said, we're here to do a Q&A. So we came up with some questions beforehand. So one question came from one of our channel members, which, that's why people get to attend some of these videos, for being channel members. But in the future, really all you need to do is come join our Discord, right? Because anytime we do any of these chats, or, we've done other videos, we've just invited people from the Discord to come join us. You want to get some experience, get your feet wet, live streaming on YouTube. Come on, come join our Discord, come join our community, and then you can get in here on some of these videos. So anyway, all right. So we had a question here for discussion. This is a question that I've actually answered on the channel before, so I'll go last. But one of our members asked, all right, so undoubtedly, most, if not all of us, played children's games, like Sorry, Life, Candyland, Operation, whatever. Probably the same is true.
Challengers.
Probably the same is true for more family games, Monopoly, Risk, Strategio. So, what modern/adult game stoked or reignited your love for the hobby? And I will ask John to go first.
Sure. Steven, would you like to take a guess?
Is it Battlestar Galactica?
It sure is, buddy. So I played a bunch of kids and family games growing up. Risk, Sorry. The big one was Monopoly. I probably played Monopoly 200 times with my brothers. We never played by the real rules. We never finished a game because someone would get mad before the end of it. But all of them. In fact, I grew up playing spades. Like all those games back in the day, we played heavily, and I loved them. But once I moved out of my house and came out on my own, I never really picked back board games up for any reason. I didn't own any. I didn't bring any from my family's house. Like it just was no longer a part of my life. And then several years later, a friend of mine was showing me Battlestar Galactica, the show. I happened to go to Comic-Con and they had the base game with all three or two expansions at that time. And I loved the show so much. And my friend played board games, and I'm just like, hey, why don't we play this? So I picked it up, and he invited some of his friends over.
This should be easy.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like watching the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So he invited a couple of his friends over to play board games, and we played like a couple of times a week for a few weeks. Just like loved the game and couldn't get enough of it. And I'm just like, this is great. And then he introduced me to Catan, and the rest is from there. It's history. But it was just that happenstance of picking up that Battlestar Galactica game and falling in love with the mechanics of it is really what got me into current gaming. And if it weren't for that, I don't know that I would ever have found the hobby again.
Wow, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I would say actually, I think I know you through board gaming. I mean, we have a mutual friend, but didn't.
Well, that mutual friend is the person that my friend invited over to play Battlestar Galactica. So 100% yes. Yes, right. I only know you because of Battlestar Galactica, the board game.
Wow, that's funny, which I have a copy of and still have yet to have played, sadly. But I'm getting there. Yeah.
You should play more board games. There's a channel on YouTube that covers a lot of these topics.
Really?
Yeah.
No way, I thought we were the only ones.
But it's us.
All right, cool. Yeah, so Battlestar Galactica is not what I would normally expect for somebody to say, oh, this is what got me back in the hobby, but that's that's awesome. Game. It's a simple game.
It's really just
game,
Monopoly
right?
with a few extra rules.
Everybody gets mad and turns the table over before the end.
Mm-hmm. Instead of buying Baltimore or Baltic Avenue, you're a Cylon. It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Same. Exactly.
You roll 3 doubles while you're in jail and you become a Cylon. Yeah.
I mean, to this day, it's still why I love Ameritrash games, because just that the theme is really what drew me into even trying it in the first place. And just a fun, cool theme is enough to be able to get you into a game and go, this is really great, because it's a neat little theme.
Yeah. Well, I still feel that way about games. All right, cool. Erock, tell us your story, man.
Well, mine's not so cut and dry. It's mostly a whole life of board gaming. I mean, when I was a kid, I would get board games for Christmas, like all the way back as far as I can remember. And I was always bugging my family, play a board game, play a board game, play a board game. And this was true all the way through basically school, I guess. In high school, I was playing Axis and Allies and stuff with, the neighbors and friends and stuff. We had D&D and stuff going on. So I've been doing this a long time. And then, at some point, you go to college, you join the Navy, you get away from it, you play some video games and stuff. So there was a gap in there. I did play games during that time. I was primarily just, computers and stuff.
Oh. Add
Um,
it to the list. Best board games to play on a submarine.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes.
Not Red
Captain Sonar.
Red October.
But, I was still playing games even when I was a gamer, as it were. Uh, my buddy Mark and I, we used to hang out. We played a ton of video games. We used to play a lot of games like Rebellion when it was a computer game, and we just went at each other for hours and hours and hours. But we also pulled games off the shelf all the time, like Caper and things like that. And, Dark Tower, because he had one. Technically, I guess his dad had one, but whatever, it's all the same. So, and then eventually, we got into like Warcraft and stuff, and that was a life sucker for quite a while. And during that whole World of Warcraft phase, we started playing Catan. And then at the same time we started playing Power Grid and Puerto Rico. And this is when those games were fresh. Like, this is how long ago this is. Like, it was. I
A hot new game on the
remember
market is Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yes. And we played the hell out of those games. They were a lot of fun. We didn't really realize that there was like a renaissance happening, and we were at the beginning. Like, we had no idea it was going to be this thing that it is now. It was just some cool games. We found more cool games to play. We knew that they were German, as it were, and it's like, oh well, that's cool. But we didn't realize this whole thing was going to explode and all that, which is kind of amazing because I've really been playing the board games since it's taken off like that, collecting them, playing them, just being a part of the hobby and the community. And it's been an incredible ride. I've had so much fun.
Yeah.
And that's basically my story. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you another brief little anecdote here. I remember when Ticket to Ride came out. Like, we were playing games for maybe a year and a half or 2 years at that point, and Mark came back to the store. Came back from the store. He was like, "They have this game up there. Everybody's going crazy about it. We got to go play." So we went up to the store. It was called Dogs of War Gaming in Palm Bay, and we were in there a lot, so we knew the owners and all that. And he's like, "Oh, I got this new game. It's called Ticket to Ride." He's like, "Everybody I play it with buys one on the spot." I said, "I'll take your challenge," and bought one right after we played it. So
And now you've pre-ordered Ticket to Ride Legacy.
I actually have not pre-ordered, but I happen to know where it's going to be, and that's good enough as a mental pre-order, as it were.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, I pretty much all my gaming is because of my older brother. So I have a brother who's like 7 years older than me, and he was always into games. So we're talking early computer games, early video games, but then all the board games I played was with him too. I mean, I played Monopoly. We played trick-taking games, learned how to play chess, as a kid, stuff like that. But he had almost all the big box Milton Bradley games, right? So we had Axis and Allies and Fortress America and Conquest of the Empire and Shogun. So we had 4 of the 5. And he had Dark Tower, and we played games like Junta and Arkham Horror, and he had a ton of the, like Avalon Hill, Hex Counter, War Game things, right? We played a bunch of those. So I played
a
lot.
ton of those in high school.
Yeah, I played a lot of those kind of games growing up. And then in high school, I went to boarding school, so there were always people around to play games with. We played a lot of video games. We played some role-playing games, but but we did play some board games. We didn't have access to a lot. Actually, we probably would have played more if we'd had them. We did have some time though, so you could actually play, like Diplomacy. Um, but then I went to college, and very little board gaming in college. I started playing video games a lot more. So most of my gaming time was video games instead. And then after college, I mean, I went to go work in the video game industry for a while, so I was like living video games there for a while. So I left the video game industry just to work on real-time simulations. And I think I had a poker night going. So, this was when poker was sort of on TV, all the rage, popular thing.
The Hold'em.
Yeah, so we were doing Texas Hold'em every week. I had a game going at my house, and then my brother, aforementioned brother, gifted me a copy of Carcassonne, and I was like, oh, well, this is cool. This is fun. We should play this with some people. And so I started at my job. So like after work one day a week, I started a game night, and it was a board games one week, and then the next week it was a D&D campaign. So we were doing that, and then at some point, my company was in California and Florida. So at some point, our dungeon master moved to California, and that ended the D&D campaign, right? And so it was just board games every week. But yeah, so I was getting Catan and Puerto Rico, and these were all the big hit games at the time. I discovered Board Game Geek, right? And what are some interesting games to play? And and then there you go from there. I mean, I've really been playing games a lot since then. I mean, I have a list somewhere where I keep track of every new game I play, and it ranges from a few years I was in like the low 50s, and then some years I've been over 100 new games played in a year, right? Like I'm just devouring. I've done my hand at game design, right? I've designed several games, signed publishing contracts for a few, and had one actually published, amazingly enough. But so some of that was just curiosity from a design perspective. Like, you don't really know how a mechanism works until you've played 3 or 4 games that use that mechanism, right? Like, you want to see what interesting things people are doing. So sometimes I'm sort of culting the new in that respect. Like, I mean, I've got plenty of good games that I would love to play a dozen more times, but I'm grabbing some new game to try out some new thing. But yeah.
Testify.
What's that?
Testify.
Yeah, right. So, anyway, but Carcassonne is the short answer to the question, what is the game that got me back in it? So there you go. And to this day, Carcassonne is one of my favorite games. That game is more thinky and meaner than I think a lot of people give it credit for. And there's like 1 million expansions for it, so you can customize it in many different ways if you want to.
It's amazing that games that we first played can survive 500 other games and still be favorites, Well,
there's something to be said for the Ticket to Ride, the Puerto Rico, the Carcassonne, or whatever being the first game you run into, the Catan or whatever, because they're good games. I mean, they're out there. There's 1 million copies of them out there. Why? Because they're good games,
Yeah,
So,
you have a couple of great moments of just like slamming that 10th point home by stealing someone's longest road, and it sticks with you. And you're just like, I love this game, So it just lasts for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I still have my nice 10th anniversary edition of Puerto Rico, which is the version that I bought because it was, I don't know if it was exactly in print, but it was available. Like, you could get it. So I got that, and I still have my original Carcassonne. I did gift Catan. I got Seafarers for because I thought it was good to be able to use the wool for something else, the sheep, because you can use it for the sails and the boats. I liked that about that, and I got the 5 to 6 player extension for both the base game and that, and that probably wasn't the best thing. That game overstays its welcome at 6 players, I think, but that's what my game nights were, right? Like, it wasn't going to get played otherwise. So anyway, I ended up giving it away. That's the only one of those early games that I can remember that I gave away. I mean, I think I still have Citadels, right, and the Resistance. These are some of the early games that I can remember. Probably if I go back and look, I can see the games that I've played the most were probably the first ones that I got, right? Because I didn't have as many games back then. And that tabletop series with Will Wheaton, I found several games there. I think that's where I found out about Formula D, which is a
Sheriff
game
of
that I
Nottingham.
love. I've never owned Sheriff of Nottingham. I don't
That's a
think
great game.
it is, and I'm really good at it, such that I don't think anybody will play it with me. Uh, we
That's
played
not why we won't play it with you.
it. We played it on the cruise one time. Remember in that
Yep.
weird disco that was like a castle on the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a weird year for the cruise.
Yeah, that was cool. All right. Well, anyway, before I blab on too long, Ryan, do you have a story?
I think most people know my story. Just 1991, 92. My game group got Cosmic Encounter and the Mayfair version. And from then on, it was just, that's what, I have always been a tabletop gamer of any sort, but that was the game that just pushed me over into mainly board gaming.
Mm-hmm.
The late 90s, I did get into CCGs a lot, where, Magic was the popular one and everybody was playing Magic, but there was such a flood of non-Magic CCGs, and I played them all. I never got big into Magic. I played it a lot, but I wanted to try all the different ones. But by the knots, I was burnt out on CCGs and been back into board games ever since.
Nice. You mentioned Cosmic Encounter, and I had played that a long time before, but then I had a good friend, and we were actually roommates for a little while, and she had mentioned that her dad had some of these old games that she played with her dad, and she wondered what happened to them, couldn't find them, and she was listing off like Cosmic Encounter and the original Dune and some things like that, and I was like, oh, those sound interesting. And so I got on eBay and I got cheap copies of them for her for Christmas. So like original Cosmic Encounter and the original Dune, they were just like $20 on eBay or something, which, in case you don't know, a few years later, those things were like hundreds of dollars on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting and fun timing. But I don't have those. She has those somewhere, probably in her attic. I don't know. Her shelves, maybe. If she'll ever play a board game with me, because we played, what was it, like Star Wars Monopoly or something during a hurricane. It was a hurricane party, so her dad was over and the three of us were playing Monopoly, and I built a hotel not on whatever the yellows are, where like normally you have Marvin Gardens or whatever. I built the hotel not on the most valuable property, which is the logical thing to do. I built it on the next most valuable property because she was 7 spaces away from it. And she's like, well, why are you doing that? And I said, well, you're 7 spaces away from it. And she's like, so? I'm like, well, so probability dictates you're probably going to roll a 7 on 2 dice and land on that hotel. So I'm putting here instead of there. And she rolls a 7 and she lands on my hotel. And then she accuses me of cheating because I used math.
Yeah, that's
Math
just
is
not
often
fair.
cheating in a lot of activities.
So one day when she's not looking, I had printed out the standard distribution of dice the outcomes on 2 dice and stuck it in her Monopoly game. And I forgot about it. But then like 3 years later, she finally went to go play. It's not like every day you whip out Monopoly. Like 3 years later, she went to go play Monopoly and opened it up and called me. And I answered the phone. I'm like, hello? She's like, you jackass. That's like the first words out of her mouth.
You're like, yes, but why this time?
Yeah. What'd I do? I don't know.
That's what I love about Catan is it's got the chits on all the little circles to show you the probability of that being rolled. So if you're trying to teach someone probability, it's a great game. And then later on, it also teaches them that probability doesn't mean anything when the dice just won't roll the damn 7 you need.
Yes. Meanwhile, the idiot sitting on the 12 and the 2s winning the game.
Yeah. So it teaches you probability and then it teaches you the real world.
Yeah. Probability is weird because, well, just for instance, you're not surprised to hear somebody won the lottery, but you'd be really surprised to hear somebody who's a close friend of yours won the lottery, right?
Yeah.
It's like, somebody won the lottery. Somebody wins the lottery all the time. But the fact that somebody near you wins
could
it
be
is
me.
like, wow, what? Weird.
I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket now.
Powerball drawing tonight, $600 something million. The question is, though, would we, if we had $600 million, would we up the quality of the channel or just be too busy rolling in our dough to record anymore?
I would
be in a
record
tropical
that,
island.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Record me doing a Scrooge McDuck, breaking my neck.
Exactly. Yes.
trick
You
you win the
can't
lottery
swim in
is-
gold!
The trick to winning the lottery is to tell nobody you win the lottery. Just disappear and go live a new life somewhere else.
In
That's
Florida,
how
in Florida, you can't do that. It's against the law.
Which part of it?
In Florida, it's public knowledge who won.
Oh, well, they gotta look it up. Like, I'm not telling them. If you go look up who won, it gets on you. But you ain't gonna hear it from me.
John's not responding to my Discord anymore. I wonder if he won the lottery.
Yeah, that's the ticket. That's why. I love that. If you ever watch the lottery winnings, they tax it at like 30%. It's some giant tax right off the top. So whenever you see them win in the actual value, someone tweeted out once, "Congratulations to the IRS for winning the lottery."
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just because it automatically puts you in the top income tax bracket.
Sure, it makes sense, but it's just like when you win and you see what you actually get, there's a little bit of sticker shock.
No income tax in Florida. There are other taxes, though. I wonder if it hits you with another tax. I don't know, and I'm going to pay somebody else to tell me if I have that much damn money.
Well, that's why, like in California, they tax all the game shows that film there. So you win a new car, and they're like, "All right, give us $1,100, or you ain't getting nothing."
That's sometimes when you read the fine print on the prizes. It's like a new car and $1,000. It's like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
to cover the taxes, right? So, all right, cool. So straying further and further from board games, although I guess
Is that what this is
Powerball is
about?
just a crappy board game, right?
Yeah,
Basically, Keno.
Powerfall is
I
better
thought
than
John
a lot
was-
of board games.
I thought John was going to bring up Challengers again.
I would, but I was waiting for it to play itself.
All right, so let's see. I had another question here, and maybe I'll let Ryan have this one. So it's a two-parter, so answer one or both of the parts. What is your favorite game you discovered because of Just Got Played, or what game do you really want to play because of Just Got Played?
Well, that's kind of a hard one because I always stay up on what's coming out and all that stuff. I'm big time on BGG. I even check out Kickstarter, even though I don't back anything. I just want to know what's there. So you guys haven't really taught me, or showed me much new.
He's
Man.
like, nothing. You guys suck.
You guys
Even
suck.
like
Close the
Thunder Road
channel. We're doing
Vendetta,
nothing with our lives.
I remember reading this question and I could not think of anything.
You had an alternate answer.
What board game have you learned to not even think about playing because of us complaining about it?
Oh.
I don't even have an answer of that.
He doesn't respect your opinion, John.
Nobody does. That's why I say it louder. You don't have to respect it, but you got to hear it.
A lot of my issue is I know my tastes aren't quite in sync with most of the Just Got Played crew. So when you're talking about the key games or whatnot, I could care less. So they don't really do anything for me.
But have you tried them?
No, I haven't.
No, yeah, I see a shelf full of Arcadia Quest there behind you.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I really don't have an answer.
Oh, you still have that Star Wars Rebellion there too. John, have you
Great
played
game.
Star Wars Rebellion?
Unfortunately.
Oh, you don't like it? Okay, well.
Oh, I love it, but the person that was being the GM ruined the experience.
GM? Star Wars
No, you were
Rebellion?
playing-
Not Rebellion. What's the? It's so hard to keep track of Star Wars
Imperial
IP stuff.
Assault,
It's
Outer Rim?
Imperial
Yeah,
Assault.
Imperial
That's the one.
Assault.
That's
Yeah,
the
no,
one. Somebody who
no,
won't be named ruined.
Rebellion is the whole Empire versus the Resistance.
No, I want to
Star
try that
Wars.
because it's just 2 players, right? It's just
It's
1v1 and
They will
I mean,
tell you,
you
that
can
it's a
play it
4-player
for,
game,
yeah.
but it is not a 4-player game.
Right.
It is a 4-player game exactly the same way War of the Ring is a 4-player game.
yeah.
It's a 4-player game if you split the duties in half and then it's a 4-player
My
game.
wife won't play 2-player games with me, so those don't get played.
Heard.
Yeah, I played it.
I love Rebellion.
I played it at a convention, and it was a really good game. It was too long. At least with the people
really
I
long.
was playing with.
Doesn't bother me because
Well,
it's awesome.
There's a
Go
difference
away.
between being long and being too long. So
It overstayed its welcome.
yes,
Yeah, there is.
Exactly. Yeah, because there are long games. Like I said, I mentioned diplomacy, a minute ago, and that's fine.
Well, you mentioned diplomacy and playing with friends, but by the end of diplomacy, they're not friends anymore.
I played a lot of diplomacy, but I've never played it in a single session.
Well, so in high school, on the weekend, if you wanted to go to the mall, where there was, that was a thing back then, going to the mall. So if you wanted to do some shopping, get some clothes or look at the computer games or whatever, you weren't downloading stuff off the internet back then either. So go to a movie, get some stuff, whatever. So you could take the bus to the mall, but then you were there the whole day because then the bus picked you up at the end of the day, right? So yeah, just take a copy of Diplomacy, sit in the food court, get infinite refills on your soda at Taco Bell, and spend 6 hours playing Diplomacy. No problem, That's what I said. Back in high school, I had more time for some stuff. But then, of course, the best way to play Diplomacy is just like one move a day, right?
Yeah, it really is. Cuts down on drama. You don't have to put too much investment into it. It works.
Yeah. I did backstab my best friend on the first turn of Diplomacy. And so that was fun. He was Austria-Hungary, and I think maybe he had made deals with every neighboring country, so he was going to stab somebody in the back too. But literally everybody stabbed him in the back. Not one person held up into the bargain. He was down to 2 units in neighboring territories after the first turn, and he was like, he just told the GM, like, my 2 units are perpetually supporting each other for the rest of the game. I'm out of here. I quit after turn 1. I told him
happens.
I told him he should surprise people. Like, we'll let that roll for 5 or 6 turns, and then just
Right,
out
and
of
then do
nowhere
something
submit
crazy.
something. Yeah, right. Have your unit move here and support there, and I'll support it, and they won't see it coming. But nah, he had well washed his hand in that game. I was Russia, I think. Yeah. So yeah, that was fun. Good times. Good times.
Yeah.
Good old Diplomacy. All right. Well, so we haven't really recommended anything to you, Ryan. Maybe we can try. Why don't you give us a challenge? Tell us to recommend you a game that has, I don't know, whatever, some playing time, some player count, some mechanisms, something. You'll probably have heard of the game already and be like, you guys suck. That game sucks. But anyway, we're going to try it. Let's try it. All right, what's your favorite mechanism?
Variable player powers.
Variable player
card
powers.
drafting. Cooperation.
Co-op. You said co-op, card drafting, variable player powers.
Yes. Those are probably the big 3.
Co-op variable player powers automatically takes me to like dungeon crawls, like adventure tactics or whatever.
I love chaos.
One?
What was that, John?
The League of Legends one? I can't remember the name.
I was just thinking that one too.
X versus Minions.
Next versus Minions, yeah.
That one's fantastic.
You draft the cards, it's co-op. I think there are playable different scenarios that has that, so I think that's the one game I can think of that has all of that.
Have you played that?
I used to own
Second
it.
favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least we
There you
were
go.
right. Yeah.
Well, join us next time for another episode of We Guess Games You Already Own.
Yeah. Wait, co-op and card drafting. That is not. Well, I guess there's all those like legendary games, right?
That's not drafting though. Open
It's
drafting.
open drafting, which is what Mechs versus Minions is.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, because there's the cards out at the beginning, and you get those, and you put them in your deck, right? It's not.
Yeah, I think that would be the second for this scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot of co-op and card drafting. And when you say drafting, is it open or closed drafting? You like better? All of it?
I like either one. like Sushi Go was my favorite kind of quick drafting game,
Yeah.
but then Cat Lady dethroned it, and that's the the open drafting. So either one is perfectly fine.
Sushi Go is criminally underrated. That is such a good game.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
what is that?
prefer the theme
ahead.
of Fairy Tale, but Sushi Go is the better game.
Mm-hmm. Fairy Tale's good too with the expansion.
Have you played Gloomhaven?
Me?
Yeah.
Uh, a little bit, not a whole lot. I have it. I have Jaws of the Lion, but I wasn't overly impressed
It's
with
still
the
the
amount
same
of setup time it
dungeon
required.
crawler kind of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as it goes, it gets way better the more you play it. Jaws of the Lion is a little bit slow because it's really bringing you into the system. You're like 10 games deep before you're really doing anything that's kind of challenging and exciting. But as you develop the characters and the town, it really starts to open up a whole lot more. You eventually get to the point where you're like you retire somebody, and then when you make a new character, they're starting at level 4 because that's how far
Yeah.
everything has advanced, and you're already making like choices for your decks and everything. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. You probably know it's like my favorite game ever, so any
Slow burn.
opportunity. But I agree, it is a slow burn. Like I said, it's slow at the beginning. You don't have a lot going on. The cards aren't very good. The enemies are boring, but it ramps up really well.
What's another game too? You have to have someone that knows how to play it, knows how to do the setup, knows all the finicky rules of the
It
monsters.
definitely helps. Yes.
Going in blind is a tough experience.
The main thing about Gloomhaven is I know it would be a game I would love if I didn't already have
800 other
so
dungeon
many
crawlers
other
and stuff.
games
Yeah.
similar that I already love. So,
All right.
kind of
How about
So-
this one? Spirit Island.
I have it's unplayed, but I do have it.
You know what? So is mine. But I have played it on the app.
That is one thing. Erock, you did talk me into getting the Spirit Islands Target knockoff.
Hey, nice.
Because I can use that as an expansion for Spirit Island, which I haven't played yet. But
Nice.
Right? That's an
I
easy
do
add-on
own-
there. Yeah.
the Horizons of Spirit Island or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
I think
called.
that's it. Horizons. Yeah.
I've got a
Awesome.
good one. What game have you bought that you went all in on and regretted it? You got expansions, you got your big Kickstarter. Like, what game did you go all in on and were just like, this is terrible?
My answer is I never have. I don't go all in on anything. Of course I have tons of Arcadia Quest, but I bought it,
Incrementally.
yeah,
Yeah.
section at a time. I own everything for War of the Ring, but I bought it, as it was coming out, basically. But I when I look at those Kickstarters and I see, I can go all in for $500, $1,000.
$500, exactly.
Like, no, I'm going to play the game first.
Yeah.
You
And
are a
then-
wise man.
And the big thing though is even if I absolutely love the game, I'm still not going to get around to playing all that content. It's like Blood Rage. I got the Blood Rage Kickstarter. It came with everything because it was it was just part of the Kickstarter, and I absolutely love the game. It's in my top 10, I think. But there's still content in there I've never touched. I
Yeah.
don't think I've played the gods of the whatever that small expansion is, and I'm perfectly fine never playing that expansion because I'm happy with the base game.
So
Yeah, I hear you.
So here's a spin on that question, John. What game did I go all in on and get a bunch of stuff for that John hated?
I'm gonna go with Blood Rage.
No, I didn't.
I know.
I only had the base game of Blood
That
Rage.
you went all in on?
Yeah, a game. I brought it to your house, and we played it.
Oh,
I had
is
the
it
game
that, like,
and the expansion and some promos.
was it like a
and-
Victorian era theme?
Yeah.
Yeah, Obsession.
Obsession. Yes,
Yeah.
John. I don't know if I was really all in. I may have had everything that was available for the game at the time, but I got that and I played it. John did not like it because it's a very sort of thinky, strategic. This is what I'm trying to do game, but then there's a lot of luck in what comes out, so that doesn't really gel together mechanically for some people. For other people, it's all just about the theme. But I ended up also selling that game in a charity auction. That went for a fortune. You know how charity auctions are. People overbid on everything. But by the way, I did go to Board Game Geek and search for closed drafting and co-op, and there are hardly any. There's like Sprawlopolis, Agropolis, some game I've never heard called Flourish, and like that's about it. There's like a couple obscure things down here. Mm-hmm. If I did open drafting and co-op, you get like Mechs versus Minions, Mage Knight, Aeon's End.
That's a good game.
Yeah, I haven't.
Tiff and I have played a lot of that.
It also has Star Realms Frontiers.
Man, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Aeon's End. That's a good game. If you're interested at all in that, I highly recommend getting the legacy version of that. It's really cool. You basically build a wizard up from nothing, and it kind of, brings the game to you. It's almost like it's almost like a Jaws of the Lion version of that, where it starts you slow because you don't have anything, and then every session you get more stuff, you get more stuff, you get more stuff, and eventually you're this powerful wizard. That's a really cool game. Yeah, a co-op deck builder. We've had a lot of fun playing that one. Aeon's End.
Have you played that?
We
Ryan?
have way too much of that.
I used to own like either 2, maybe even 3 of the Aeon's End main boxes, but I'm not into deck builders. I love card drafting. I'm not partial to deck building, so
I'm right there with you. It's to the point where I almost won't play deck builders.
This one has a nice little twist to it where you don't ever shuffle. So the order in which you discard is going to be the order in which you draw, which is really cool because you set yourself up for things in the future.
That would make my head hurt.
It's still a deck builder. You know what I'm saying? You still have a whole pool of cards out there in the middle of the table where you get to buy them every round or whatever. But I just really like that mechanism. In fact, I think the first time I played that mechanism was in Brian Lockett's game.
Above and Below?
No, before that. City of Iron. I really like City of Iron, but that had that whole thing in there. And, I'm going to go way off here on a tangent here. But the deck building aspect of that game, can you believe it? The deck building aspect of that game is basically voluntary. Like, you don't have to really do any of that if you don't want to do that. There's this whole, like, kind of take that almost like direct competitive nature of that game. You don't have to do that if you don't want to do that. Like, there's options in that. I really like that game. The thing that I could probably, I'm the only one around that's played it, except the other people in my group that I made play it. But if I had to compare it to anything, it would be Through the Ages, because it's very similar to the way the card river runs. Like, it's very similar to that in a like sci-fi Ryan Lockett weirded out world kind of a way. That's a really cool game. So thanks for the memory.
You want to play a neat deck unbuilder game? You should try Flamme Rouge.
I have never played that.
It's a very fun game.
Always wanted to.
Start with your entire deck. Every time you play a card, it's removed from the game. So you've got to forever. It's gone. And you're just trying to get to the finish line, but you've only got so many cards, and you got to use them properly, and then get in a position to draft with other players. And it's a very fun strategic game. It's one of my favorites.
Cool. And then, see, I got distracted because they say Heat is like the best parts of that and Formula D. So it's like, wow.
It's definitely a great marriage of those two games, but I still find a lot of value in Flamme Rouge as well. So, like, I own both. I would play both. They're both great games. But to me, Heat doesn't replace Flamme Rouge. It's just another good alternative racing game.
Okay, I buy that.
I still like Snowtails better than Flamme Rouge or Heat.
Maybe it was the map, but I could not slam into the wall.
Yes, see, that's good.
Well,
that's
I
called
wanted
fun.
to be tough, but doable. I don't think I could have survived that wall.
No,
it's like, you know how that was terrible and it hurt you badly? It's fun.
Yeah. No,
it's not a bad game. It was just a little
that
too
is
tight.
definitely a game you need to play more than once, because it's one of those games where I don't care how much you think you understand the rules, and how much the person teaching the game tells you that it's really hard to turn in this game. You don't understand how hard it is to turn until you actually play it. But that's what's fun about it too. So
yeah, it's a neat game. It's hard.
Just not a big racing guy. So I'm always like, I should play Flamme Rouge, and I never do. I should play Heat, and I never do.
You should. They're both absolutely worth it.
I think my favorite racing game is Jamaica.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'd like to play Jamaica with the crew before I make a determination, because I played the base game and it didn't.
You haven't played with the crew?
I have not played with the crew.
Oh, the crew is awesome. I mean, if you didn't like the base game, you're probably not gonna like it.
It wasn't
it's
terrible.
Just more stuff, but
Yeah.
the more stuff's really cool. It just slots in there so well, like so naturally into the game. And the crew is fun. It's all these different. It basically gives you variable player powers. Basically, all the different.
It could bump it up because
do different things.
My issue with it was, it's like I play a card, I move 4, and I end my turn. There are some turns that you're just like, they're route. There's not much going on. So if I had a variable player power and I'm, swapping around crew, like that could give the game enough meat that I would enjoy it. So
well, plus a lot of those times where you take a turn and you're not doing anything, that's because you went to port and there's nothing to do there. But now that's where you get the crew. So there's literally no space on the board now where nothing happens. Something happens on every space now because of that. It's fantastic.
You have to pay or fight or get a crew or whatever, right? So, yeah. And then, like I said in the last video where we talked about it, the decision that the crew take up a space in the cargo hold was
that's
just
crucial.
Fantastic, because otherwise you would just load up on crew, right? But that makes it so it's, actually an interesting decision. Like, oh, I'm going to replace this crew. I'm going to just fill my boat up with
am I going to
crew.
run out of food?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, plus coins or points, right? And then you're like, oh, crap, now I don't have any cannon. John's going to come kick my ass. I don't have any cannon, right? So
because I noticed you were out of cannons before you did.
You probably suggested it. You can just clear those cannon out of that hole.
Yeah,
to
just get those guys. And then you do that. Next turn, you're smooth sailing on calm seas. It's a great idea.
Look, if you get all 3 of them, you automatically win. So.
Also, what's the combination of your captain's quarters? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah. Gosh, Formula D is probably my favorite racing game, but second might be Steampunk Rally. Just off the top of my head, I do love.
It's been a long time since I played that. I tried to get one of those in the Dice Tower flea market and got outbid. Because I have standards.
Man, flea markets. Sorry, I'm in the. BGG Con is coming up in November, so I'm in the BGG virtual flea market for that convention, and I don't know. There are deals in there, right? I mean, I sometimes see some games. I'm like, oh, that's a really good deal. I've bought things here locally just because, like, well, that's such a good deal. I'll just give it away as a gift or something. But I'm not going to do that when I've got to get on a plane with it, right?
Yeah.
And come home.
Or pay to ship it back.
Boy, yeah. Well, I'm definitely not doing that. But I mean, how many people? It is amazing by how much so many people overvalue their game collection. It's like
they want retail for it.
Yeah, it's like here is my well-loved version of this game that you're not gonna get till almost Thanksgiving, and $5 more than it's on Amazon brand new. Why would I buy that? Why is anybody?
Why
gonna buy
would
that
I
from
buy
you?
that? Yes, exactly.
I could have it tomorrow for cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was out of print or something, I could understand gouging. I don't agree with it. I can understand gouging for that, but come on, man. It's just at least Google it before you put it up there.
There are definitely some people in there who have things that are, out of print, and they're charging premium for them. And I'm like, well, okay, that's your thing. But, then there's people in there that are just clearly, they're like, I just making room on my shelf, or maybe this is what they do. They collect games all year long, and then they subsidize their ticket to this con by just unloading some stuff they don't play anymore. Like, whatever.
All right, look, I don't do it on purpose. It just happens that way. Okay?
They should just make a list of all the games people want to sell and then offer it to the same 5 people that buy everything. And whatever they don't want, put that up in the auction.
I did notice somebody who loves to bargain for games in the Dice Tower virtual flea market is also in the BGG Con virtual flea market. So that was interesting. But it seems I don't know. It seems it's a different group of people for the most part, right? The people that go to a convention in Dallas versus Orlando, but it seems like there's more overpriced stuff for that convention in Dallas.
Well,
so,
everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's true. Oh boy, I wonder how that convention is going to go. I am normally I'm pretty well prepared for a convention. I've made a list of games. Like I want to get these games played, and I've sent it to John so he can learn them and teach them to me. But
But I'm not going to BGG
but he's
Con,
not
so-
going to BGG Con, so I'm just not
Have you
preparing.
been there before?
No, I mean I've been to Dallas. I've been. You know,
I mean BGG Con.
yeah,
I haven't
no.
been to it either, but I've heard that it's very similar to Dice Tower, just people hanging out playing games. So
Yeah, which is why I want to go to it, right? Like I went to Gen Con a long time ago when I was a kid, when it was still in like Geneva or whatever, right?
right.
That's what they mean by the Geneva Convention.
Yes, exactly. It used to be in
okay.
Lake Geneva where D&D was founded, right? You know, and that was interesting and that was cool, but there are a lot of conventions that are they're business conventions,
Yes.
right? Gen Con and
It's
Essen.
about the business of the
It's
hobby.
a trade show, not a
Yeah.
game playing convention. And I don't care. I don't want to go queue up in some line to get some new copy of the game to be the first person. I mean, it would probably help the channel, like, hey, unboxing and review of this game nobody else has yet because we got it at Gen Con. Woo, look at us, we're special. But I
I'll
don't
add it to the
care.
list of things we do after we win the 600 million.
Yeah, right,
Mhm.
right. I mean, there are some things like that weird dungeon thing that you do in person at Gen Con. Like some of that stuff I would like to experience. You know, I mean, if I just had infinite free time, I would do some of these things.
Right.
But I don't. There was a question, I think it was from Bonacar and Ignacie's podcast. There was a question like, what is like your Grail convention that you haven't been to? So I answered that, but I want you guys to go first. Do you have a Grail convention, Erock?
That is a good question. Because absolutely BGG Con is tops on my list as far as where I'd like to go. Just because it's got a rep just like Dice Tower, which is awesome, chill, laid back, play a bunch of games. But if there's a Grail convention, ooh, man, I guess Essenspiel, man. It would
Essen's
be
my answer.
nice. I don't even think I'd have as much fun there as I would at like Dice Tower and BGG Con because I just want to play games and that's not what that's about. But still, it's like going to Mecca, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to
Yeah, it's like
Essenspiel,
it's like
man.
spectacle and retail and just big.
It's funny.
But having to go across to Europe just to go to a convention, it's just like, man, Steven's balking at having to go to Texas for a convention, like, let alone international travel.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's kind of
You
part
gotta make
of
a
the
trip
perk.
out of it, right?
You know,
That's
it's like,
part of
yeah,
it.
We
man,
do.
we're
And
going
I've
I'm going to
talked-
Europe for a couple weeks, and while there, I'm going to Essen, man. You know?
Right, but it becomes a whole thing. It's like you've got to now set up a 2-week vacation with international travel, plan activities around it. Also, I'm happening to go to Essen. It's my Grail convention. I'd love to go, but it's just the logistics of it are so daunting that it just becomes a non-conversation at some point.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan? Do you have one?
As someone who's never been to a convention, even the local ones, the small local ones around here, hands down, Dice Tower East. On just to meet the JGP crew in person, but I do have.
Yeah,
family
we'd love to see you
area
there, man. I have a great time every year.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to play games. I don't want to see new hotness or hear rumors or gossip or whatever. I just want to play games with people and so Dice Tower East definitely. BGG Con's much more likely to happen because it's a lot closer to me. But either one of those would be great. But Dice Tower East would be the one I'd choose.
I have to say, my favorite Dice Tower conventions have actually been the Cruise and the Retreat. They had the Retreat in Orlando one year, and that was awesome. I haven't been to the one in the South. So
I'd like to go to the retreat. It's just, there's
It's all
only
email them and tell them to
there's
bank
only
the
so
retreat in
much
Orlando again.
time.
Rumor has it that it is not out of the question to have another Orlando retreat. So, but it's not going to happen unless people say Tell the Dice Tower folks that, right? Like, hey, you need to do that
let
again.
them
You
know.
want to do that. Tell everybody you know. Tell, Roy and Chris and Z and Tom. Tell them all, right?
You can email them or tweet at them. They read all that stuff. So let them know
Yeah,
what you're
but
thinking.
I still only have so much time.
I would rather go to that than Dice Tower Con.
Sometimes, Erock, it's not all about you.
No.
If
I
I
don't know
had
who
to
told you that, but they're wrong.
If I had to choose between the Dice Tower Retreat in Orlando and Dice Tower Con in Orlando, I would choose the Retreat. It was awesome.
Well, there's pros and cons. It's like amazing time, Silverwood Grove. It's
Was that the Retreat?
that was the Retreat.
Oh no. Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably was. You're right.
It was 100% the Retreat.
All right. Well, anyway, my Grail convention, since I haven't mentioned it, is invite only. Does that clue you in?
Yeah, is it what's
Gathering of Friends.
Gathering of Friends.
There's
There
actually
you
a
go,
couple
yes.
of Gathering of Friends because Bruno Faduti does one in Europe. I think he calls that too. But Alan R. Moon's Gathering of Friends in New York. So I have been to like designer conventions and prototype conventions, and so this is an invite-only convention run by Alan R. Moon, and people come and they're playing the prototypes and getting a lot of feedback on stuff. They're just playing and having a good time, but there's a lot of, prototypes and new stuff there as well. So, I know a lot of these people. I've never been invited. This is what I like to say. I've never been invited, but I've also never asked for an invitation. So, what do I know?
It's like Schrodinger's cat. You haven't collapsed the wave function, so you can't get upset you weren't invited.
Yeah. In the early days, that was, I think, how you got invited. You asked to be invited. I do actually talk to Alan R. Moon once a year. And you know what? I'm Board Game Media, and I'm a published game designer. Like maybe I could go.
You qualify.
Yeah, and now
That's on my list.
I took my wife to Niagara Falls this year on a trip, so now I can go to Niagara Falls and not feel guilty about going without my wife.
Yes. 3D chess.
Also, lastly on my wish list, I'd like to go to HeavyCon.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That's Heavy Cardboards convention.
Oh, they have one? Okay.
Wow.
Heavy Euro,
Yeah,
right
where?
up my alley. Denver,
Sounds like the best
Denver.
4-game weekend you've ever played.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, you could go there for 3 or 4 days and play 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds fantastic.
We got War of the Ring Thursdays.
Right. Exactly.
TI
Rebellion
Fridays.
on TI Friday, Rebellion on Saturday. What a weekend, man.
Nice.
Good Lord.
I would actually enjoy that if you've seen my what did Steven play at the Dice Tower videos that I put out. You could see that I play a lot of games. I play typically shorter games, an hour and a half or less, and I play a lot of them. And part of that is just, it's essentially opportunity cost. It's like, yeah, I want to play this heavy game. Yeah, sure, I've never played Twilight Imperium. I would like to play that. Or I can play these 5 other games in that same amount of time, and so it's always just sort of opportunity cost for me. I did play Star Wars Rebellion there that one time, and it did take forever. I'm glad I played it. I enjoyed playing it, but yeah, opportunity cost. What did I miss out on playing because of that?
I get it
You just
100%.
You got to make it a special event. Like when you hosted the 6-player Scythe. Like you go in knowing like this is going to be a big game. It's going to take
a 7-player side.
7 players. Yeah. And then we're
I
all
do not
like,
recommend
man,
this.
I don't like this. And then you sold it.
No, it was fun. Like I enjoyed that.
But that's what I'm saying. You make an event and it doesn't matter that you're only playing the one game or if the one game is amazing, it's an event.
Yeah.
That becomes the focus of it. And that I think that's how you do it without having to feel like, oh, I missed out.
Yeah, I have
I just feel like everything's an event. Like I want everything to be an
When
event.
Erock walks into the room, it's an event.
He has his own theme song. Yeah. No, I have some games that are, event games. I have to schedule an afternoon with people to get that game played, like Merchants and Marauders or something, right? And so 7-player Scythe was like that. And then we played it, and I'm glad we played it. And, I enjoyed it to an extent, but I knew that, like, I'm never going to do this again, right? The amount of effort I had to go into to arranging 6 people to come over and play Scythe on a Sunday afternoon, a 7-player version of it for me. It's just like the return on that investment wasn't high enough, so I got rid of the game. Sold that in a charity auction for $1,000 to a guy in Hawaii. Yeah. That was one of the collector's editions of Scythe with the
where Ryan's
expansions
at. Right.
and stuff. Oh yeah, Hawaii, where Ryan is. Right. Yeah.
Maybe you know him, Ryan.
Right.
Just go around and start asking people, like, did you ever buy a copy of Scythe for the states, the continental states?
I do. I have a work project that has a connection to Hawaii, and I've just been subtly dropping, hints that I need to go visit the Hawaii installation.
Should be on site.
Yeah, that hasn't gone anywhere yet, but
have you taken your wife there yet?
I have not. Fun Steven trivia though. I've been to the U.S. Virgin Islands. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to 49 states and the District of Columbia. I've not been to Hawaii.
I'm texting your wife right now to tell her you're trying to go to Hawaii without her.
I don't think she'd care.
Probably not.
Hawaii. If Hawaii was high on her list,
you know what she would say?
Gone.
You know what she'd say? Take the kids with you.
Oh yeah.
I'll take the week off.
Oh yeah, 8 to 12 hours on an airplane with my kids sounds great.
Oh man,
what
he's touching me.
It's like 5 or 6 hours to LA and then a layover, and then God, it's got to be another 5 to Hawaii from LA, right? Like
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Oof. All right, here lies Steve. He didn't make it to Hawaii. That's my tombstone.
Speaking of events, when I get my act together, I'm going to put an unboxing together of War Room.
Oh, yes. That is an event game. And wow. Yeah.
Is that the one with the planets you have to assemble by hand?
No. This is the Axis and Allies guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry Harris. Yeah.
Yeah. Made this.
It is giant.
You should do an unboxing of that planet game and then just have you cursing in the background and throwing stuff, and this damn thing won't go together.
So they put a drop of. All right. So little background, right? They record, they put it on Google Drive, I download it, I edit it, and turn it into a video on the channel, right? So I don't know if you noticed, but it didn't make it in the unboxing video, but there was a 16-minute long video of just you and Tiffany talking and yelling, trying to put those globes together. Did you know? Did you know you were recording?
You just got to release that as its own video.
I thought about putting it in at like quadruple speed in the middle of the video.
It's so frustrating.
It was 16 minutes.
Oh my god! And we were unsuccessful. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to work at it. That game is so hard, and this is. Everybody in the world knows what I mean. If I go, they should have just gone like this. Yeah. Everybody knows what that means. Why didn't you do that?
Yeah. I don't know. Bad design decisions there. Yeah. Well, I mean,
you should release it as a second video.
Yeah, just
a short. I should turn it into a 1 minute short.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea. I like it. Nice.
But yeah, I saw that game on Kickstarter, and I think that was on Kickstarter when I was already in my I'm not kickstarting anything anymore.
Just for everybody doesn't know, we're talking about globe-trotting.
Globe-trotting, yes. It looked
Proceed, sir.
Because they had made some other cool game before that.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand, but
yeah, it was R2I Entertainment or something. I can't remember the name of the publisher, but they had made some other thing that made you think, oh, well, they can pull this off, right? Not just some random thing. But, I saw it on there and I was like, oh, I'm not backing Kickstarters anymore and I don't want to store that thing. I thought it was going to look big. But maybe it would have been better if it was just assembled and taking up more space than you having to reassemble it every time you play it. But it has...
it's really annoying. We took it to our local game night at the shop, and like 2 of the 6 of us were like, click, what's the problem? I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill you. I am going to kill you. They're like, let me do yours. Click.
Oh, really? It wasn't just that like 2 of the 6 of yours are really good. It was just that some people are
2
like,
of the 6 of the people
savants.
were really good.
They're savants. Yes, okay. I thought it was a manufacturing tolerances thing. That manufacturing of board games, notoriously, they have high tolerances for, you know, you got to have a lot of bleed area on your art or whatever for when they're cutting things or whatever, you know.
Which, you know, if you're talking about some cards or the board, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're talking about assembling something every time you play it, it's a big deal.
Like the Everdell tree.
Or if you're talking about a first edition Tesla Model 3, it's not a big deal either. The panels are close enough. We have one, so I can
self-driving. Yeah, close
this.
enough.
Wait, I didn't pay for the self-driving because I was like, well, all right. We talked about i4 being Thunderdome, right? So,
yeah.
So the Model 3 didn't exist yet. We had it on pre-order, but there was the question of whether we wanted to put the money down on the self-driving or whatever. Well, we went and test drove a Tesla Model S. I actually bought a used Model S until the 3 came out. But anyway, so we went and test drove the self-driving on i4 in a construction zone on I-4.
Talk about trial by fire.
Yeah. So Laura was like, well, let's try this out. And she was like, just like less than a minute. She's like, nope. Like, we're not paying for that crap. And so here we are, $10,000 that we saved, and it still wouldn't have worked anyway. So actually, I don't know. I know some people who have the Model 3 with self-driving now, and they say they've gone all the way from their house to work using it. So whatever.
I don't even know if I could trust a car to do that.
I rented a Nissan in Canada that had some self-driving capabilities, like lane following or whatever. And it was, I mean, you know, it's not my car, and I'm not going to sit there and read the car manual at the car rental place. So, but as far as I could tell, I couldn't turn on cruise control without turning on lane following. And I use cruise control a lot. So I'm fighting it because it and I don't agree where the center of the lane is. So I'm fighting it. So finally I just sort of gave up and let it do its thing. And I mean, it did a pretty good job, you know, whatever. But if there was a button like disable that, I would have hit that button. I don't know where I don't know where that button was, and I'm not going to sit there and read the manual. Maybe I should have while it was driving for me. I could have just read the manual.
You get all that free time.
Yeah.
You get diplomacy on the dashboard.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we've been live for about an hour here. Anything else, Ryan, you want to talk about? No? John? Erock? You guys good?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Oh, I wanted to tell you my answer to one of your previous questions. The game, my favorite game from you guys, Can't Stop. The game that I am most trying to get because of you guys, Winner's Circle. Yes.
I knew that one, yeah. All right.
Yes. Excellent. Other than that,
times.
I am now finished as well. Thank you.
Cool. I will let everybody in the Discord know when the new dice tree printing of Winner's Circle becomes available on Amazon.com, because the publisher said that's coming later this year. So when I see it,
yay! Yeah, they also said Q4 of 2022, so we shall see.
Yes. It's going to happen eventually. So we'll just
someday.
wait and see.
Someday.
All right. Well, that is our channel member Ryan. That is Erock. That is John. I am Steven. We're from Just Got Played. Thank you for joining us. I mentioned the Discord. Come join the Discord if you want to talk to us about stuff like this and join in on some of our videos. That's where all that's going to happen. Give us a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. But, otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Indeed. Thanks for staying. Bye. Have a wonderful time.